auction catalogues. Perhaps you never look at them. Quite often I see them at comic marts and I pick them up. They're normally about £5–10. You can variety of prices, but I've got ones from Heritage, Sotheby's and many others as well. But what's in them? Well, lots of different things, and they can all vary. You pick up one and you might get all covers, lots of things like covers there, and you can see a whole range of different things. Wonder Woman, All-Star, really quite nice copies of covers as well, not your average covers. These are quite often like 9.8s, 9.6s and all those sort of things. Don't ask me how they're all worked out. Still, you see like here, Batman 9.0, 6.5. And of course, another variety, you might get a very thin catalogue or you might get a very thick catalogue, generally for about the same price. There's no real consistency. You can see this one, £5 as well. You can find them online, of course. And of course, there's the Heritage website. That's a great place to check out there. They often include sometimes the same sort of comics. You can see like Detective Comics number 27, X-Men number 1. But you also notice you've got comic strips, newspaper strips. You've also got things like Star Wars. But you've got lots of like inked pages. So let's just go through some of these. And you've got here, like the B-Man. And they're not massive. Sometimes it might fill the whole page. You can see there, B-Man. There's another one, Brother Power, Freak Out. Sometimes you get one comic, doesn't really particularly match, of course, anything next door to it. Then you've got there, that's a recreation. It actually says there, you can see it says recreation. But you've also got things like that, lovely inked page, which, you know, is quite a large, chunky page. Maybe not as big, of course, as maybe an artisan edition, but still pretty decent. And also on nice glossy paper, and it really, really looks. Also, another great thing about these, often gives details about prices. Sometimes, of course, completely ridiculous and often, of course, now out of date. But it doesn't actually say what it actually went for in the end, of course. But you can see there some history as well. So it gives you a lot of detail about it, where it comes from, source material, what was happening at the time. And sometimes you get a lot of detail, sometimes not particularly much detail for a particular one. Something like there, a Reed Crandall. So if you've got particular favourite artists, you might find a catalogue packed solid with EC comics. Or maybe Wally Wood. You might get a collector that's selling all their Wally Wood. Why would they do that? Who knows? But still, you know, Betty and Veronica and Archie, of course. And then you got, again, Peanuts. And also pencil sketches. That's another thing that quite often turns up. There you go, like say, there's a good old EC comic there, John Severin. And many, many others. And also you've got Love and Rockets. But also you have things like this. All these lovely little pulp ones as well. And again, gives some details about the pulps. So it gives, obviously, the prices there, $250, $275. Now, again, this catalogue is 2012. Certain the prices have changed. But you've got here Spicy Adventure Stories, Spicy Adventure, Spicy something else, as well as Mickey Mouse annuals, magazines, as well as other plates and things, Chester Gould, Dick Tracy. Now, some of it you can see are very, very small. Very small. But you can still read it. Magnifying glass if you can't. But it also gives lots of, again, lots of details. And this is, I always treat it near enough as a massive history book of comic books. It really covers, obviously, a very all over the place history of comic books, but it's still fascinating. And there you've got there X-Men. Now you can see 9.2, you can look at it, 9.0. I mean, obviously, from my eyes, they look much the same. Though sometimes you look and think, oh, clearly you can see that one looks nicer than that one. Just slightly, because it's got a slight bit of brown at the side. Still. But again, you get, like I say, thin ones, and sometimes it might just be purely covers all the way through. Or maybe some, like there, some actual like paintings as well, or things like this. Magic, don't ask me. I have no idea about that one. The Magic, The Gathering, apparently. Never collected any of those. But some, like I say, some of the covers are very small. And it's also, again, it's a history of comics, because you probably, unless you've got those, the sort of photojournal books, or you look online for, say, double feature comics, some, you know, you wouldn't find Raggedy Ann and Andy comics, those sort of things. So here's another one. Comic books and comic art. This one, obviously, Robert Crumb. Oh, I love it. Just absolutely good. And you've got different sessions. Also things like this. You've got here the collection of Disney books there. The complete Carl Barks library, boxed volumes. I mean, I would love to have that. And it says there, apparently 1,500 to 2,500. That was back in 1997. Again, perhaps it's changed a bit. Also things like Al Williamson and various other sketches and things, which I think is just great as well. Vault of Horror. Also this, Prince Valiant. So you've got Harold Foster there. Whole range of different, and they do vary, like I say, and sometimes you might see the same comic over and over again. Weirdly, things like Action Comics #1. There's Action Comics #1, also Action Comics #2, and also Action Comics #3, and Superman #11, and Action Comics #5. And that's another thing, quite often when you're going through this, it gives details, of course, of all the, it doesn't include every single thing. You might be looking, thinking, oh, where's that? Issue 4 seems to miss it. But you've got the Flash comics. So you can see their Detective Comics as well. Don't know when that's April 1937, issue #2. Again, not the sort of issue you generally see, variously. And this one, Slam Bang Comics. I've no idea what that one is. Oh, it's an Ashcan. So you've got Ashcans quite often turn up. Or Police Comics. Or these ones, Wyatt Earp. I mean, they're just absolutely brilliant. All these got Gil Kane, whole range of different artists. All these sort of things. That one's Mars. Yes, a Mars Attacks gum cards. Wow, just a collection on Tales of the Unexpected. So there's that catalogue. This one, another thin one. You get some that are like Platinum Edition. Sometimes you look at them, and I've got a few of those ones that says Platinum Edition. They're quite thin often, but again, they can vary. And you've got these sort of things. I mean, look at that. Just brilliant. All-Star, that's a 1.8, 4.5. I mean, you can tell the difference. Obviously, you can see the damage there. That one looks much nicer, doesn't it? 4.5. But that, of course, is issue 8, First Wonder Woman. You've got Crypt of Terror, and this one, the Comics Magazine, issue 1. This one, I think, is 3 different copies, it says here. Now, that might have changed, of course, but it's also got here May 36. This is one of the first 50 comics ever produced, the Comics Magazine. And many, many others, special edition comics. Just love these, and of course, all the obvious ones like Action Comics there. And, of course, Journey. And the prices, of course, have probably completely changed. I mean, there's no way. I'm certain that the 8.0 here at $16,000, it's probably gone way beyond that now. But also you've got things like Star Wars, which is, if you're in Star Wars, really good. Lots of Star Wars. And often they go through collections as well. They've got a nice sort of discussion about the person that collected it. I think it's just great. Really, really nice guide. This one, obviously Batman. And quite often you can actually find out a little bit of the sort of thing that they're covering on the back. So you've got here, Yellow Kid. You can see the book there. You can also see something, most things, Green Hornet, obviously Avengers, as well as, of course, Neil Adams there. And Flash Comics, look at that one, lovely 9.8 there. Issue 12, Flash Comics. Now, it would be nice, of course, if it showed inside, but of course it's been slabbed. There's obviously one there, not slabbed, Flash, and obviously it's got some staples there. Obviously at some point, oh, it's fallen out there. This catalogue has been. So you've got Flash Comics, Fairy Tale on that. Oh, that's Pogo, the one that, Walt Kelly. And also you've got different sessions as well, and you can see there Superman and also Playboy as well. So you've got Playboy issue 1. I don't know what that one was. Lots and lots of different. So if you're really into sort of like seeing virtually the complete history of comics, you can get things like this. I mean, this is great. H.G. Peters, Etta Candy versus Cheetah, original artwork. Just absolutely glorious. And there's loads of pages and pages. Obviously sometimes smaller, but you can see again all the ones like Classics Illustrated. There's the Caesar one there. And Robert Crumb. So you've got a load of Robert Crumb in that one. And also another session there. And again, like I say, the session, sometimes they break it down and you've got all these small covers, which is unusual, but still, again, it does give lots of details. You've got like Dr. Solar there and others. Let's go on to the next one. Now, I'm going to do another video of my rest of my books. I've got quite a few of these heritage ones, so I'm not going to show them all in this go. But you can see again, you've got this one. I'm just flicking through, obviously, Detective Comics 6.5. That one, that's issue 31. Obviously, oh, there's a lovely Batman one. Legion of Feline Furies. Captain America one there, so you can see the coming of the Falcon, and that's in this catalogue one. 64 pages of thrills, obviously a few more than that in here, and this was 2014. Action Comics number 15, You can see a lovely cover there. And again, gives some history about it. And of course, the Avengers there. You can see Power Man. That was a great one. The guys. And that one's a sketch one. Pencil cover. You don't see many of those pencil sketch ones. But that's pretty cool. And also, obviously, Jack Kirby there. The police trap. And there's obviously lots. If you're into Jack Kirby, you will see a lot of Jack Kirby. Dick Sprang. Also, again, and also many other things as well. Water wine. And Fantastic Fours. And you can see, of course, Daredevil there. You've got Daredevil #1, and it says 7.5, gives lots of details about Karen Page, Foggy Nelson, and many others. This one, Black Canary. That was a cover, one of the really quite late covers of the Golden Age. And again, lots and lots of brilliant. And like I say, Batman, they quite often turn up all the way through. You often see a Batman #1, Captain Marvel's, all the very early ones, or the Mickey Mouse book, those sort of things. Quite often it's really depressing. Sometimes there's a couple of books that I always regret not buying. When you go through these ones and you see them and you think, oh, why didn't I buy that book? Especially the ones in the Golden Age ones. Quite often I'd see them at various conventions and things, and I would pick them up, didn't buy them, and of course now they're ridiculously overpriced. And so I look and think, oh, wish I got them when they weren't overpriced, £5 or £10, and you think, likewise, I guess you could argue these sort of things, original art pages, but I never really saw them. Maybe they were there, maybe they were on the walls, maybe I just walked past them, sort of completely ignored them, which is a pity, but it's still. But again, every catalogue is different, so you might get it, and it says there obviously comic art, so you're obviously going to get some comic art, but sometimes it might be 5 pages, might be 10 pages, but you just don't know. So you pick it up, and then you can find Moon Girl Fights Crime. Quite often, if you look online, you can see it shows a lot of the catalogue details. Like you've got pictures, so you can see whether one's worth getting or not. You don't always, I personally don't always want one showing covers all the time. I actually like it for these sort of things, like these pencil sketches. That's just great sort of stuff, pencil sketches. Again, Playboy. They're obviously selling lots of copies of Playboy. But Weird Tales, all the pulps. Obviously, that one, look at that. Margaret Brundridge. We said her name wrong. No, it is right. Batman again. Lots and lots of Bullet Man, and many others again. On to the next one. This one's Hulk 1. This one is from 2009. Oh, this is the one in the collection. Like I said, sometimes you get this. The Martin Grime collection, Gary Keller collection, Joe Cooper collection. And you get that, and you also get some details at the front talking about it, which is always fascinating to read. And this sort of one, Century of Comics. I don't think I've ever seen a copy of that in actually any comic mart, or probably Catman Comics. But this is the 3rd comic book ever made, after Funnies on Parade. And they often have Funnies on Parade, I think, in here as well. You got here Doll Man. Some of these covers are absolutely amazing. Mickey Mouse one. They're just March of Comics. Just absolutely glorious. Of course, Mad, Smash Comics. And again, Special Edition Comics. Obviously, Captain Marvel. Of course, Amazing Fantasy there. Which one? That's 7.0 and 8.0. Sometimes you can struggle to see that. That one there, you can see the 8.0 looks nicer, just obviously on the surface. You can't tell obviously what's inside, but it's one of those things when you look at it. Though saying it looks rough and along the top, I suppose it depends really what you want. If you look at it and think, I prefer it one way or the other way. Oh, Joe Cooper. So you see, you've got that, and then you've got some lovely pages of his original artwork there, from 7 Soldiers, as well as loads and loads of pages of his artwork, which is really good. And there's another one, lots more original artwork there. Pages, and this one obviously got lots of pages of original artwork. And again, it probably was £5, exactly the same price as the thin ones. So Thor versus the Executioner. I think that was the 2nd issue. Yes, 2nd issue, 2nd appearance. I always thought that arm looked very ungainly. I don't know. You would want to hold your arm back with a hammer like that. But just seems always. Occasionally, when you look at sometimes, you think. And again, more comic strips, newspaper strips, and then lots of them, of course, very hard to find. I know they're again very small, but you could, of course, use a magnifying glass. And then you got some Alex Schomburg. I think his covers were always amazing. Though that one is not so dramatic as some of the covers he did. Some of the covers were truly weird covers. Look, some Bernie Wrightson as well, Eerie one there. I mean, that is just cousin Eerie. And again, some more small little covers there. And again, you've got all the ones on the back. So you can see all new comics, Spider-Man comic, Thor, see the ones that they consider the big sales there. And again, another slightly smaller one. Now this one is, Sotheby's. So I have got some other catalogues. And I think I might have some others as well. They're all slightly done differently. And you can see here you've got the covers again with the details. Though not so much detail perhaps. No, saying that, these got lots of details. Things like the Chicago Tribune, George Wonder as well, original 30 Terrian Pirate stage strips. And I mean, well, that's quite a reasonable price on white mounting copies of Strange Adventures as well. They're listed. Though I suspect that's on the next page because it doesn't show it on that page. Or maybe, there they are. There they are. The covers. See, you can see issue 1 there. Silver Age collection. And that's sometimes quite often these sort of catalogues, you've got a whole run of comics. Just, like Silver Age collections, obviously someone's put on. Julian Apollo. And the many strips I've never seen. So Julian Apollo by Zenith, apparently. By J. Disbrow. And, again, more illustrations there. All the way through this book. Lots of illustrations, in fact. Collection of timely Golden Age titles highlighted by Captain America 62 and 67. 67 there. You can see some other ones as well. Blonde Phantom, Two Gun Kid, Margie, and those sort of Two Gun Kid number 1. I mean, that's pretty good as well. Crazy number 2, and it's obviously got 13 pieces. It says there, and that's the Sotheby's catalogue. And on to the final one in the set of heritage ones. This one obviously a Robert Crumb there, and again you can see on the back sort of things that are in this. You've got the Beast. Oh, it's got an actual Marvel Comics. That's probably quite often they put them at the start. So you go, let's have a quick look. So you've got Action Comics number 1. You've got all these adventure comics. And again, it's just fascinating just running through. And quite often you might have some gaps, but quite often you do get near enough a nice run of all those sort of comics of like detective comics. There you can see Detective Comics, obviously number 1 there. Detective Comics number 1. I have no idea. And of course it gives details about that. New Fun Comics. No, that was one of the ones that I regret not buying. New Comics. I saw it in New Comics, issue 1, and I thought, should have bought that. It was nothing. Next to nothing. £40. And I thought, I don't know anything about it. 1935, 1936, that sort of comic. How come? One of those things. One of those regrets. That's always the way with comics. And you got here Sensation Comics. Now, I've never seen a copy of that. Issue, obviously there. Number 1, Hawkman. Daredevil again. Obviously, I love Sea Devils. That's another thing when you go through these things. You see sometimes covers and you think, I haven't looked at one of those for ages. Sea Devils, I've just got the showcase ones, which I think are brilliant. Richie Rich, I love all those ones as well. Some really great Harvey Comics ones. Oh, you got here Amazing Stories. Recently, I just got a copy of Wonder Stories. It was a very, very, I think it was issue 1, and it's probably in here somewhere. And you think, wow, those sort of things. I love those old pulp ones. The stories are terrible to read, but they're still fascinating. The illustrations are great. All the various, and some of it's okay. But and you got all the toys as well. I haven't got any toys. Never collected those sort of things. Great, but it's still things I just never. Not one that I remember those. Huckleberry Hound. I was never a fan of Huckleberry Hound. I don't know why. Oh, you got the cells and things as well. Original artwork. There used to be a shop in London that used to sell all the sort of those cells. Oh, these ones, Flash and all that. Again, some lovely Tarzan ones as well. Again, small, very, very small, so you do need a little bit of magnifying glass. But I think they're just absolutely brilliant. I would love to see an artisan edition of some of those ones, Hal Foster ones. That would be a brilliant collection to see. Obviously, clearly the artwork's around, some of it anyway. You've got Frank Miller ones as well. And when you go through this, you quite often think, wouldn't it be nice if there was an artisan collection of some of these things, like Peanuts? Now that would be a lovely artisan edition. Invincible Iron Man, Justice League of America, Wallywood, there's some Wallywood ones there, Eerie and others. Well, that one's Men's Magazine panel. Blondie, and many others. So that is a run through of about half of my various auction catalogues. Obviously most are heritage ones. Again, like I said, there is the heritage website. course, they've got lots there. But I actually like to have them in a sort of like nice physical volume like this. Now, I occasionally do get rid of them and then always regret it, because I think they're lovely collections and I love reading them, picking them up and just flicking through them and just looking at some of the brilliant artwork, as well as reading some of the history of the comics and the people. So, heritage comics and comic art.